Hello everyone and welcome to my Zorro series review. I am happy that you can join me today. If you are new to this channel, welcome. Click the subscribe button below for future notifications and updates. Click the like button and share this content with other fans. So earlier this month, I posted a video about what to expect in 2024 and I shared what I am looking forward to. But Zorro was not on the list because I did not know about this series until a couple of days ago before the premiere when the trailer popped up on my YouTube algorithm. I was pleasantly surprised to see another remake of Zorro because he is one of those forgotten superheroes. There was a silent film Hollywood made back in the 1920s. Then there was the 1940s black and white action film starring Tyrone Power as Zorro. Many people, this happens to be one of my favorite films in my DVD collection. Many people don't watch black and white films anymore, but I think they should. There was a Disney series back in the 1950s. I used to watch that series on the Disney Channel on cable because they used to show it on the Disney Channel. They used to show the reruns 2 o'clock in the morning. So because I'm a night owl, I ended up watching the series for a while. Then there was the 1998 action adventure film right there, The Mask of Zorro, starring Antonio Banderas, Anthony Hopkins, and Catherine Zeta-Jones. Also one of my favorite films in my DVD collection. So the 98 film was the last time the entertainment world gave us a version of Zorro from what I can remember. Now, I mentioned in the same post I was talking about that I am getting tired of sequels, prequels, and remakes. But when I saw the trailer for this new Zorro, I thought, well, it's been over 20 years. Let me give this series a chance. And I am happy to say it exceeded my expectations. I highly recommend that you see this series. So let's start from the top. Zorro is a 10-episode series that premiered on Amazon Prime on Friday, January 19th. On average, each episode clocks in from 45 minutes to an hour. According to online reports, it took 8 months to shoot the series. Production started in July of 2022 until February 2023, and it was shot in the Canary Islands. So it seems there was publicity about this series in Spain, but I don't think here in the US we knew about it. From what I see, companies didn't start posting trailers until 2 months ago. What I want to point out here is one of the pros of streaming. We are able to watch entertainment that was produced outside of Hollywood and even outside of American independent circles. And one of the countries that make great entertainment is Spain. Prior to streaming and YouTube, I didn't have access to Spanish entertainment. All the Spanish language films I watched prior came from Latin America. So in this version of Zorro, the story takes place in California in the 1830s, after Mexico abolished slavery and before it joined the Union and became a state. It starts off with a fight that breaks out inside a church between Zorro and Don Alejandro de la Vega versus a group of soldiers who are trying to kill Zorro. So they succeeded at killing them both. De la Vega's son, Diego, played by Miguel Bernardo, who lives in Spain, gets a letter stating that his father was murdered. Diego, who was raised in California, goes back home, inherits his father's vast wealth, and he goes on a mission to find out who killed him. He starts by talking to his father's longtime mute servant Bernardo, but meanwhile, you find out that the deceased Zorro was a member of a Native American nation who lives on the outskirts of town. The chief of the nation calls a meeting and tells his people that a new Zorro must be named. The sister of the deceased Zorro, Nalin, volunteers to be the next Zorro because she believes the mask is her birthright. The chief explains only the spirit, who appears in the form of a red fox, can choose who is the next Zorro. The spirit chooses Diego de la Vega. When Nalin learns of this, she is angry that a rich white man's son is chosen to be the next Zorro. Later on in the season, Nalin decides to disregard the chief and she becomes the female Zorro. When authorities find out there are two Zorros, they keep it a secret because they don't want the people and the press to find out. And they are on a mission to kill both Zorros, including the governor. However, what they don't know is Nalin has made herself to be Diego's enemy, and she is determined to be the next Zorro. Diego decides they should fight for the mask, and whoever wins will be the next Zorro. I am going to give this series a solid 4 out of 5 stars. As I mentioned earlier, this series exceeded my expectations. What makes this version of Zorro stand out from all the rest is, and I was very surprised by this was a racially and ethnically diverse cast of characters. The directors and the production team went back to the original story, plus they did their research on the history of California. Besides the upper European class that Diego belongs to, there are Russian investors who play a part in the story. And when I read the history of California before writing this review, I learned that there were Russian traders doing business along the West Coast from Alaska to San Diego. And Spain quickly took over the California territory so that Russia couldn't get to colonize it. You also have Chinese characters. The Chinese have lived in California since the 1800s. San Francisco's Chinatown was founded in 1850. There are Native American characters that played an important role to this story, which I appreciated. Before colonization, there were 30 Native American nations living in the California territory who spoke 6 distinct languages. You don't see Native American characters in previous versions of the story. When you read on the history of California, you realize the diversity portrayed in this version makes sense because you see how each community interacted with each other and what problems they had within their own community. The press is run by a white French journalist, and his undercover assistant is a black woman. So throughout the season, you see Diego interacting with all kinds of people. Nowadays, people tend to be cynical when it comes to the entertainment industry pushing the quote-unquote woke culture. But Zorro is a story where over the decades, the story got whitewashed, and I personally didn't realize it until I watched this Zorro and started doing my online research. The original purpose of the research was to find out the actor's name who played Zorro, and that led to reading about the production and reading about California's history, which was unplanned. Speaking of the actor who played Zorro, Miguel Bernardo is someone I never heard of before, but he makes a great lead actor and a great Zorro. The cast overall is good and the production value is very high. Gorgeous sets, beautiful costumes, good storyline, strong characterization, and overall great production. Another thing I really liked about this version was how vigilantism was explained. In one of the episodes, the Chief and Diego are talking about why Nalin should not be the next Zorro. Nalin and Diego have one thing in common. They lost someone close to them in a fight. Nalin's brother was murdered. Diego's father was murdered. The Chief says Nalin is motivated by revenge. Revenge is personal, but justice is for all. The chief sees that there is more to Diego than avenging his father's death. Zorro was always a defender of the everyday people, the poor people, and the victims of injustice. So when Nolan is Zorro, you see Zorro behaving out of character. She just doesn't embody the true Zorro. The problem is, in real life, people frown on the vigilante. But for me, I have always loved a good vigilante story like Zorro, like Batman, because there is a difference between law and ethics. And sometimes the law is not just. It's not fair, and bureaucracy can get in the way of the law providing the justice that people need. And what law enforcers tend to do is follow the law whether they agree with it or not. The vigilante is not bound by the law, therefore, they are not bound by the limitations of the law. They are guided by morality and ethics. It is easy for me to embrace the vigilante because I always say this: North American slavery lasted for hundreds of years because it was legal even though it was unethical. This is one of those rare stories that explain who should be a vigilante and why. And what makes sense is when you watch the season, you see that Nolan creates problems simply because she is out for revenge. Whereas the purpose of Zorro is to fight against the powerful who are corrupt and unjust. Now, the character of Diego de la Vega has always been the anti-Zorro. He is a wealthy man, a gentleman, a coward. You can describe Diego as a facade, a disguise, so that no one suspects that he is Zorro. So Zorro is a disguise. Diego is also a disguise. And the only time he is not wearing a disguise is when he is around Bernardo. There are some interesting things going on in this version, and to turn it into a series rather than another movie allows the filmmakers to explore more fully the world of Zorro. I really enjoyed this Zorro. It's captivating and mesmerizing. So that is all for today, my friends. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time with another review. You can find Zorro streaming on Amazon Prime. Take care.